Hello, the picture behind me I'm using as a backdrop this evening is of some nurses in London in the 1960s. The two nurses on the right are Irish, and the two nurses on the left, it doesn't really give you their ethnic or racial background. I would guess they're possibly West Indian, and the nurse behind may or may not be Indian. It's a bit difficult to know, but it's the cover to a book I'd like to look at briefly, which is called Irish Nurses in the NHS, an Oral History. This was written by Professor Louise Ryan, Gráinne McPollen, and Niha Doshi. It's an oral account of the histories of over 30 nurses that worked in the NHS over the years after coming here from Ireland. And I'll read a little bit of the introduction. I was born in March 1947 in the Big Snow. Before I go on with that, I'll note that March 1947, which is now seems like an infinity away, was one of the roughest winters ever in the last 100 years in the UK and Ireland. I'll carry on. And I didn't have any midwife, doctor, or anything in attendance because the snow was so heavy that nobody could get there. I was a fifth of six children. I was the fourth daughter at a farm, and we're all still alive and well and healthy. We were brought up in rural agricultural Ireland, and we didn't have an awful lot, but it didn't seem like that at the time. We had adequate. We had lots of fun amongst ourselves, and I can remember life being tough, and there always was lots of work to do. She then goes on to tell you how she left school at around 15 and a half, worked in a hat factory, and how she eventually came to Ireland to train to be a nurse in 1965. And I'll read on from that point. Following the establishment of the National Health Service in 1948, and given the urgent need to rapidly expand the number of nurses, there was an active campaign to recruit thousands of young Irish women and men as trainee nurses. Advertisements were placed in national and provincial newspapers, and recruitment officials travelled to every town in Ireland interviewing potential student nurses. At a time when nurse training in Ireland was not only very limited, but also extremely expensive, the chance to train for free and to benefit from living accommodation in British hospitals proved highly attractive. Now, this book has a personal interest to me because my late mother was a nurse and one of those girls who came here to England to train to be a nurse. So, of course, you can see the attraction of the book to me. But there's also quite a lot of people like me who are the children of women like that. And it's a very interesting book because it showcases their struggles, their how they've had cultural differences, how they also encountered some prejudice along the way. Of course, during part of the time they were here, those who came here for long-term careers, you have the backdrop of the troubles and the prejudice that went with that. Originally, these nurses, when they came here, were considered to be chatty, friendly nurses, lovely girls to work with people. And many of them, of course, stayed here and married here to British men or men from other cultures and nationalities. But when you got to the late 1970s and certainly the 1980s, I can remember quite a bit of abuse being thrown at some of the Irish nurses over the troubles as though it was personally their fault. And they were used as something of a whipping boy for all that. And it got quite hostile. Now, I will admit that was only a minority of patients, and it tended to be patients of, shall we say, slightly restricted intelligence, not the cleverest patients in the world. Most patients were far too intelligent to do that, but it only needs 1 out of 100 to cause chaos or annoyance in a hospital waiting room or a hospital ward. In the same way, I'll note that the nurses on the left there, who came from places like India or the West Indies or later the Philippines, you are now experiencing a wave of commentators who seem to pretend they weren't there at all. I can assure you they were there because I can remember them working alongside people like my mother. If they weren't there, either I'm suffering from very early onset dementia or I'm an AI construct talking about something that never happened. It's up to you to decide which, of course. I assure you that neither is the case, that you can certainly find lots of evidence of them being there. St. Joseph's Hospice, which is the major hospice for terminally ill patients in Hackney, had a very mixed nursing staff. You had Filipino, you had West Indian, you had Irish nurses. About the only thing that united them was the fact that they were all Catholic because it was run by a Catholic nursing order and a Catholic order of religious sisters as well. But I find that this book offers a lovely tribute to those people and their service. And I would hope Professor Ryan would write more material of the same type so that people like that could be remembered.